I would like to welcome you all to this edited reprieve of the Fusion21 webinar, Covid-19, the recovery stage. The webinar was put together as part of Fusion21's desire to continue to add value to our members and supply partners, and we hope that this extract involving Greg Campbell, Director of Campbell Tickell, will prove to be insightful, thought-provoking, and aims to give some of the very latest thinking in the sector as we prepare to enter the next stage of this terrible pandemic. Fusion21, like most organisations, adopted to lockdown quickly, and we were able to move all our operations off-site. Whilst not quite business as usual, we have continued to support our members and supply chain partners remotely. We have been running members' webinars. We have continued to take inquiries regarding new projects, and as lockdown begins to ease, we hope that many of the existing projects will return to site, and our work in supporting members with their procurement and social value needs will continue to grow. Fusion21 and the Fusion21's Foundation have also been supporting our members and their communities through a substantial donation to two national charities. This includes £100,000 to the Charities Aid Foundation Coronavirus Emergency Fund. We have also been revising how we support members through our social value offer. Further details are available on our website. I started the webinar by asking Greg. Many of us are aware of the Campbell Tickell CEO WhatsApp group. Greg, do you want to start with some of the insights that this is giving us and your view on how the sector in general is reacting?
So in terms of the Chief Executive's WhatsApp group that has received a certain amount of publicity, Campbell Tickell set that up in the middle of March, about a week ahead of lockdown. And the reason that we did it was because we've always been conscious in our dealings with different organisations that chief executives don't have anywhere else that they can naturally go to share concerns and issues. And here we were faced with a situation which affected everybody in different ways, but essentially all dealing with the same sort of issues. So we set the group up. It's grown to something like 220 chief executives from right across the UK and also in Ireland. We have organisations represented there from the largest in the country through to a number of relatively small organisations, including also as part of the group, care and support providers, homelessness agencies and so on. And it's housing associations predominantly, but we also have ALMOs represented, and in fact we've got most of the ALMOs in the country. Their chief executives are on the group. In the initial stages, people were focusing on the immediate presenting challenges, remote working and how to deliver that effectively, repairs. In many cases, people moved to doing emergency repairs only. In some cases, emergency and compliance repairs. In other cases, still emergency compliance and voids. Issues with access. How were people able to deal with situations where a tenant might not want contractors in their home? Conversely, contractors not happy to go into people's homes to carry out repairs. Issues with vulnerable residents, mental health issues affecting residents and staff alike, but albeit of course in different ways. Domestic violence spiking, ASB increasing significantly, access to PPE, problems in care homes, supply chain issues, construction sites, and also financial aspects that could affect the organisations concerned. The danger of arrears and bad debts rising significantly, and organisations seeking to focus on maximising their cash holdings. More recently, the focus of attention on the group has been about arrangements for people coming back to work gradually, and the messaging, certainly confused messaging from the government around that, but development sites reopening, and more happening in terms of contractors, but then still issues around supply chain, materials and so forth. But also a number of organisations setting up or building their tenant hardship funds. The group has been a significant source of collaboration. It's been really striking how, while housing organisations, housing associations perhaps in particular, have a tendency to compete with one another or to be seen to compete. As far as the group is concerned, what we've seen is effective partnership working. People have been very happy to share information about the way that they've approached issues. People have been sharing model documents. We've even seen some joint procurement of hand sanitizer. One of the CEOs discovered a good source of affordable sanitizer. Others have been sharing information about access to PPE, and in one recent case, a property was sourced that was suitable for use by victims of domestic violence. So it's been, I would say, a particularly positive experience, and one that it will be interesting to see how the partnership and collaboration approach can extend beyond the immediate crisis.
Thank you, Greg. As we move out of lockdown and into the recovery stage, what do you see as the key challenges and risks? And perhaps you could focus on the financial issues the sector is facing. If we do have spikes in rent arrears and increased voids, what would be the financial implications to the sector, and how long might it take to recover?
Turning to the issue of the financial effects or potential financial effects of the crisis, in the initial stages, as I said a moment ago, organisations were focusing particularly on maximising their cash holdings. This is on the basis that a significant increase in arrears and bad debts is anticipated, and business plans have been remodelled almost on a week-by-week basis. Organisations have wanted to make sure that they didn't get into any commitments that they couldn't afford. So in some cases we've seen development projects, even ones that those concerned might have been working on for quite a few years, mothballed if they hadn't already signed up to the necessary commitment. As far as the repairs situation goes, there's certainly been a concern expressed by some chief executives that as things gradually over time get further back to normal, firstly there's going to be a backlog of routine and urgent repairs that's been built up that haven't been tackled over a period of what may well be a number of months. And in some cases, as we know, where less urgent repairs are not dealt with, by the time that one does deal with them, they become emergencies. And the concern is that there could be a significant cost spike to address, just at a time when organisations are grappling with reduced income because of the increases in arrears that are expected. As far as new development is concerned, there is a concern that while the need for new housing, demand for new housing is significant and isn't going anywhere, affordable housing, I should say, it will come at a time when the government has diverted a huge amount of its financial resources to propping up the economy. Is there going to be money left? What new sources can organisations find to address the costs of new development? Because the housing market, as we know, is in the midst of an effective downturn. It's anticipated that there'll be something like 500,000 fewer property sales this year. as well as a reduction in house prices of, well, different commentators will say different things, but commonly people are talking about up to 10% reduction. In those circumstances, the sort of cross-subsidy that's normally available or required in addition to grant is not going to be viable in quite the same way. So there are some significant problems there that will need to be addressed. There are, of course, ways of addressing them, especially if one can get government on board around the release of public land at reasonable prices, rather than requiring best market price in all cases, as well as initiatives such as land value capture, which would require legislation, but there is considerable support for it across different parties.
Finally, if every cloud has a silver lining, what are the positives you think we can take from this crisis, and how will housing organisations adapt to the new normal?
In terms of positives potentially arising from the pandemic, I think that there are a number of good opportunities for organisations to shape the way that they operate. That the pandemic has required people to put changes in place that they might have been planning to do over a long period of months within a matter of days. Remote working. Now, this is not to say that the office is dead, but many people, many organisations will be examining whether they really need such substantial footprints as they've been used to in the past. I think that a lot of office accommodation over time, as leases fall due, is going to become available at quite reasonable prices, and much of that will be suitable for conversion into new housing. Hopefully not the kind of little boxes that we've seen in too many cases under the PDR changes that get round planning legislation. As far as development's concerned more generally, I think that we're going to see space standards coming back. I'm not sure whether it's a return to Parker Morris, but many people are going to be looking at potential accommodation, whether it's to rent or to buy, and say, is this really big enough for me to be working from home a certain amount of the time, as well as in the office part of the time. There are going to be expectations around access to amenity, access to green space. There's going to be, I think, a reshaping over time of the approach to the local communities, to the neighbourhoods, multi-use areas suitable for living, working, leisure, retail, and so forth. As far as housing management and maintenance is concerned, plainly we're going to see a significant focus on things being done remotely. And in certain cases, we're going to see a ramping up of the use of AI, artificial intelligence, to enable repairs to be carried out, to be diagnosed and to be carried out at a distance. Much resident engagement is going to be much more is going to be done on the phone and using digital means than has been the case in the past, and potentially that means that one can get around a lot more people than might have been possible in the past with face-to-face visits. Plainly, there are many people for whom face-to-face visits are going to continue to be important, but we think that that's an area where we can expect to see significant further developments over the coming years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Greg. This now ends the Fusion21 Covid-19 The Recovery Stage webinar. We'd like to thank you all for attending. We'd like to thank you for listening, and please watch our website for more events such as this. Thank you, stay safe, keep well.